Welcome and thank you so much for joining me today. So we are going to be looking at the positioning of a point on a circle. So to start off, when we're talking about a unit circle, we need to be thinking about the quadrants, and we have 4 quadrants. So I'm going to draw my quadrants. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking at my angle. So because my angle is 300 degrees, that means I know I've got 90, 180, 270, and it's going to be in this quadrant here. So that is 300 degrees. So when we are thinking about trying to find the point on the circle, I want to find this point right here. So that means I'm looking at this y, and I'm looking at this x. So that is my triangle, so I'm looking at 60 degrees here. So first thing I want to think about when I am looking at this quadrant is I'm looking at x and y. Now, so that means I am thinking about sine and cosine. So the first thing I would like to think about here is sine is the opposite, so sine is y, and I know sine is going to be negative. Cosine is also, cosine is adjacent, and cosine is, the x is positive. So cosine is positive, which means tan is going to be negative. So my points are here are going to be x, remember I'm thinking about cosine here, so x is cosine and cosine is positive, so cosine 300 degrees, comma, y is sine, and sine is negative, so negative sine 300 degrees. And that is my coordinates. Let's move on to alpha 237 degrees. The first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be drawing my quadrants. Once I've drawn my quadrants, I'm going to be thinking about where does 237 degrees fit. So I'm going to be going 90, 180, it's less than 270, so it's in here. So I know this is 237 degrees. Remember, we are trying to find the point on the unit circle. So if my circle is there, I then need to go up to the x-axis, and that's a triangle that I am looking at. So if I'm thinking about that, the first thing I'm going to be thinking about is what's this in here? 237 minus 180, so straight line is 180. That equals 57. 57 degrees. So I'm going to be first is looking at what is sine, what is cosine, and what is tan in here. So if we remember about sine, sine is looking at the opposite. Opposite is looking at the y. So the y here is negative. Cosine is looking at x, and x is negative, which means you've got a negative and you've got a negative, that means positive for tan. Okay, so our coordinates here, if we're looking at x and y, remember if we're thinking about x, what are we thinking about? Cosine, because cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so we're thinking about cosine here, so cosine 57. Now, cosine is negative, so negative cosine 57. And our y is sine, and again, sine is negative as well. So negative sine 57 degrees. And that is, sorry, I put 57. I put 57 there, it should be 237 degrees there, because that is the angle. 237 degrees. 237 degrees. That is the angle that we're looking at. Really hope that helps you understand our putting points on a unit circle. I really want you to make sure that you're thinking about once you get your angle, it's always finding the point on the circle and then going back up to the x-axis, and that's your triangle. You need to make sure you know how y sine is sine and cos. Y sine is the y-axis and y cosine is the x-axis. If you don't, please go back to a previous video on unit circle to assist you.